Hello, my name's Paul. I'm the Accidental Bookseller. Welcome to the channel. I went to Hornby Book Fair last Saturday. Hornby is a small, well, tiny village in the Lancashire countryside, and it holds a book fair run by a group called Northwest Book Fairs, who run a number of book fairs throughout the region over the course of the year. I have rented a table myself a couple of times and done some selling of books. Not very successfully. The first time I did it, I made a loss, and the second time I did it, I made a small profit. And with the amount that you have to outlay on the cost of a table, your pitch fee, it just wasn't worth it for the number of books I was selling. But I'd still go as a customer, and because I know the people at the book fair, I'm a bit nervous about doing a video like I did with the Carnforth or Wigtown or Old Pier Bookshop in Morecambe. I put the video up last week. So I have got a little bit of video, and I took some photographs while I was in there, not many. So I'll play that now, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes. There's some sights and sounds of Hornby on a cold but sunny winter's Saturday morning. The main street is Hornby. There's not much else, but it's got a nice tea shop. It's got a village store. Everything that you expect from a quaint little village. That's the village hall where the book fair is, held twice a year, once in spring, once in autumn. It's got the main hall for the books, and it also has a room where you can buy bacon sandwiches and coffee and cake and what have you. That's the main hall. It's got about 12 dealers in, selling a mixture of new and second-hand, mainly second-hand. On the right-hand side there, the stalls against the wall, it's at the far end sold new and second-hand, because I think they own a bookshop which sells both. And on the near side on that wall, that was selling sort of classics and just general second-hand, but quite a few classics. I did get one book at that particular stall and 3 or 4 at the far stall. Then in the aisle there on the right hand side, one sold vintage children's, and then near side sold very vintage paperbacks, pretty cheap, 50p each, or I think it was 5 for £2 or 10 for a fiver. Just facing me against the stage where I'm standing, on the stage it sold occult and paranormal paraphernalia. But in front, there's quite a few political vintage books. On the right hand side of that left aisle, hardback non-fiction. And to the window there's some residue from that middle aisle of selling hardback non-fiction, and then some fiction paperbacks as well. And on the far wall there's railway books and some war and military books and some natural history, some nature. But all in all, quite a broad spread of a mix of books. So it's time for the haul, and I got a surprisingly large number of books at the book fair, considering its size. I got about 10 or 11 books, some classics as well. And the first one is has been on my TBF list. I've got a phrase for books that I want to look out for in the wild, and it's the TBF, the to be found, because I've seen other people use their TBR description as books that they haven't even bought yet, and I thought TBR was ones that they've bought and it's kind of joined a queue to read next. So I think there's a need for another term for books that you haven't found yet that you want to in the wild. And I've got about 150 to 200 books in my head that I want to buy if I see them, but I'm in no rush to go out and buy them off the internet. I really want to read them, but I'm quite happy to wait until I see them in the wild. And my first book is one of those books, and it's The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This was £2 at the book fair. It's in nice condition. I know very little about what it's about, other than the fact that people I know are particular fans of Sylvia Plath, and it's time I read her. The next classic that I got there was from a table where they sell some second-hand and also some brand new books, because I believe they have a bookshop that sells both new and second-hand. And it's Decline and Fall by Evelyn Waugh. I haven't read Brideshead Revisited, though I would like to. But this says on the back, sent down from Oxford in outrageous circumstances, Paul Pennyfeather is oddly unsurprised to find himself qualifying for the position of schoolmaster at Lancaster Castle. His colleagues are an assortment of misfits, rascals and fools, including Prendy, plagued by doubts, and Captain Grimes, who is always in the soup or just plain drunk. Then Sports Day arrived, and with it the delectable Margot Best Chetwynd, floating on a scented breeze. As the farce unfolds and the young run riot, no one is safe, least of all Paul. Yeah, it feels like would I be wrong to say it's a 1920s, 1930s era book? Just from the photographs, that's my perception. And not read Evelyn Waugh, need to, and I got this. This was £3.50. A little bit pricey for a book fair, but it is a brand new book. Another brand new classic that I got is Eric Ambler, The Mask of Demetrios. This was very much a serendipity purchase, which I like to do at book fairs. You don't know what you're going to get there, and you'll see a book and just fancy it, and you get it. And this is one that I really fancy from reading the back. English crime novelist Charles Latimer is travelling in Istanbul when he first hears of the mysterious Demetrios, an infamous master criminal whose body has just been fished out of the Bosphorus. Fascinated by the story, Latimer decides to retrace Demetrios's steps across Europe to gather material for a new book. But as he gradually discovers more about his subject's shadowy history, fascination tips over into obsession, and Latimer realises that his own life may be on the line. Not Le Carré, not Dayton, not Ludlam have surpassed the intelligence, authenticity, or engrossing storytelling that established the Mask of Demetrios as the best of its kind. Robert Harris says, if you want to experience the feel of the continent in the 1930s, you will find few better guides. This sounds really good, and I've never heard of it before. This was £4, brand new, so perfect condition. And another in the Modern Classics, the Penguin Modern Classics series. Next book I got was £2, and it's Alexander Dumas's 20 Years After. This is second hand, but in really good condition. And I got this because once I read the Count of Monte Cristo, I expect to like it, and then I've quite fancy reading the Three Musketeers books because Alan at Alan's Reads has been doing the same. And I think this is the second book in the series, and I thought, well, I'm not going to get another book in such good condition as this in the series, other than buying it brand new for quite a bit more money. So while it was there, I got it. Next book I got was in the SF Masterworks series, and it's Arthur C. Clarke, The Fountains of Paradise. I suspect this is new as well because there isn't a mark on it, and it's just perfect, no spine bend or anything, and £3.50 from the same stall. So I reckon it's the same, i.e. brand new. Not quite sure what it'll be like, but it's in the SF Masterworks series, and I wouldn't say I'm collecting them. I'm kind of slow collecting them. If I see them in good condition, I'll get them and I'll read them. And what I've read so far, I've liked. So I got it. The next book was another serendipity purchase, and it's Deborah Cadbury, Chocolate Wars. I'm presuming she's related. But it's From Cadbury to Craft, 200 Years of Sweet Success and Bitter Rivalry. I think it's about the development of the chocolate industry and rivalry between the Kraft and Cadbury families. It's in a nice plastic wrapper cover, and I saw this and it was £6, I think. Yeah, £6. I thought, you know what, this could be quite interesting. And because it was in such magnificent condition, I got it. I think that could be quite a good read. And the next 5 books were on a stall where everything was reasonably cheap. Paperbacks were £1, and in some places they were 50p. And these particular books I think they were 50p each, or you could get 5 for £2, or was it 15 for £5? And when I got these 5 from this seller, one of the dealers that I know from one of the other stalls came up to me and apologised because he'd bought another 10 of the same author when the fair started, before anyone else got in there. And these are Dennis Wheatley books, and the first one is The Haunting of Toby Jug. Nice condition. So these were effectively 40p because I got 5 for £2, but that's really nice condition for 40p. And the reason I fancy reading Dennis Wheatley is because my my Nana Edith had Dennis Wheatley on the shelves in her house. I suspect that she read more unusual books than you expect your grandmother to read, because I know that Dennis Wheatley was on the shelves. And at this point, I want to give some advice to you, and it's to have a conversation with your grandparents if they're still alive, but on a one-to-one, not on a child's view of your grandparents kind of conversation. Because I don't know about you, but when you're with your grandparents, you kind of revert to an age when you're not as old as you were, and you perhaps don't have proper adult conversations about what interests them, what interests you, or asking them for advice on what they like reading, or other stuff, just normal stuff. And it's one regret that I do have of not having these conversations with my grandparents. They've all passed away now, and you get to an age at some point where you think, oh, really would have liked to have a nice adult conversation with my grandparents, and I never did. And I would love to know what my nana thought of Dennis Wheatley and the other stuff that she used to read. I just wasn't mature enough at the time to have those conversations, and I do regret it. So if you're watching this and you can still have those conversations, have them. So this is The Haunting of Toby Jug. The next one is The Devil Rides Out. And if you don't know Dennis Wheatley, in the late 60s, early 70s, there were films, I'd loosely call them horror films, but the perception is that they were horror films. Nothing particularly horrific in them, there's no gore or anything. But there were films about devil worship with the likes of Christopher Lee in. But this type of a book was popular to be made into, say, a horror film in the early 1970s. So this was quite a nice find, and again in cracking condition for 40 pence. Similarly, this one, another Arrow book, Dennis Wheatley, To the Devil a Daughter. So a little bit more damage to the spine, but it's in cracking condition for its age. Let me check the age. This is a 1959 reprint, originally 1953. So what's that, 41, 67 years old. So this is cracking condition for 67 years old and for 40p. The next one I don't think is necessarily horror. I don't think. It's The Rising Storm. Interesting cover. Very prolific author was Dennis Wheatley in a number of genres. This is originally published in 1949, and this Arrow edition is 1961. And finally, the final Dennis Wheatley is The Shadow of Tyburn Lee. Is it Lee? No, Tyburn Tree. Shadow of Tyburn Tree. A bit more creasage on the spine. An enthralling story of scandal, brutality, and espionage set against the fabulous background of Georgian London and the court of Catherine the Great of Russia. Howard Spring says, this turns the Scarlet Pimpernel pale pink. This was, again, this is 1960, originally 1948. So that's 5 Dennis Wheatleys for 40p each. And that'll give me a little bit of a grounding on Dennis Wheatley to know if I want to get any more, because I do know that on things like Facebook Marketplace, on eBay, you can get enormous job lots of Dennis Wheatley for not much money. So that's The Shadow of Tyburn Tree, the final one. So those were all the books that I got at the book fair. And then after the book fair, I went back to the Old Pier Bookshop in Morecambe, because the night before I was editing my video of the trip there and the whole video. And while watching that back, I realised there was a book there where I wanted to check that I'd not got it before I bought it. And I didn't have it, like I suspected, but it'd been a week or so, maybe 2 weeks since I'd visited. So I went back, and fortunately, it was still there. And it's Other Dimensions by Clark Ashton Smith. Bit faded on the spine. This is volume 2. There's a volume 1. And this was £15 marked, but the sale was still on for 20% off, so I got it for £12. Published in 1977, originally 1970 by Arkham House, but this is Panther Books 1977. And the reason I wanted to get, I rushed once I realised that I'd forgotten about looking. The reason I rushed to the shop on Saturday to get it was because I looked on eBay, and I knew they were pretty rare at the time, but the lowest priced version of this particular copy, this Panther book, £108 on eBay. There are other editions, but this particular copy fits the other Clark Ashton Smith that I've got, because there are other Panther books as well. But for £12, absolutely fantastic value. What I want to do is gather all my Clark Ashton Smith together. I want to do a video of them all, but I also want to collate all the different stories, list all the stories in an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, and compare it with all the Clark Ashton Smith stories that he did, because principally he was a short story writer. And I want to know exactly which ones I'm missing, because I reckon I've got most of them already. And then next year, I'll do a reread project of all Clark Ashton Smith's short stories. But yeah, that completed a fantastic day on Saturday with the Hornby Book Fair trip and the trip back to Morecambe and the Old Pier Bookshop. I was surprised in the time between my last visit to the Old Pier Bookshop, from which I filmed, and the Saturday going back, just how much turnover of stock there'd been. So I suspect it might be a little bit of a goldmine, that shop, and it was very full. It was a Saturday, but there was quite a lot of people there. But yeah, anyway, I'm chuffed to get it. I'm rambling now. That's the end of this video. If you liked it, by all means click like. If you want to see more, click subscribe. And if you do click subscribe and want to see more of me, then no doubt I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.